Throughout the ages, there have existed certain substances that bridge the gap between our physical world and the unseen realms that surround us. Coarse salt, a humble crystal found in nearly every home, holds secrets that Edgar Cayce, the famed sleeping prophet, uncovered through his remarkable psychic readings. In his trance states, Cayce revealed that salt possesses properties beyond its culinary uses, properties that our ancestors understood intuitively when they used it to ward off negative energies and entities. Before we continue, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Salt has been revered across civilizations for thousands of years, not merely as a preservative or flavor enhancer, but as a powerful spiritual tool. Edgar Cayce, through his psychic readings while in self-induced trance states, offered remarkable insights into why this crystalline substance holds such potent protective qualities against what many traditions call demons or evil spirits. What is it about salt, Cayce would often contemplate during his waking hours, that makes it such a universal element in spiritual protection across so many diverse cultures? The answer, he discovered, lay in understanding the fundamental nature of both salt and the negative entities it repels. In Cayce's cosmology, the universe operates on vibrational frequencies. Everything, objects, thoughts, spirits, and energies, exists at certain vibrational levels. Through his readings, Cayce explained that negative entities, or what some might call demons, exist at particular disharmonious frequencies that can attach to and influence human consciousness. Salt, especially in its coarse, unrefined state, possesses a crystalline structure that generates a stable, harmonious energetic field. When properly employed with intentionality, this field creates what Cayce described as a vibrational barrier that disrupts the lower frequencies at which negative entities operate. Is this merely superstition dressed in pseudo-scientific language? Many skeptics asked of Cayce's explanations. His response was typically measured, drawing from both his psychic insights and observable phenomena in nature. Cayce would point to salt's remarkable physical properties as reflections of its spiritual attributes. Salt crystals form perfect geometric cubes, one of the most stable structures in nature. This physical stability, he explained, corresponds to energetic stability in the subtler realms. Additionally, salt has natural purifying and preservative qualities, preventing decay and contamination, mirroring its spiritual function of preserving energetic integrity and preventing spiritual contamination. But perhaps most fascinating was Cayce's explanation of salt's electromagnetic properties. In his readings, he described how salt, when dissolved or scattered, creates subtle electromagnetic shifts in the surrounding environment. These shifts, imperceptible to ordinary senses, but detectable to sensitive individuals, and certainly to discarnate entities, create an environment inhospitable to negative energies. The nature of coarse salt, Cayce explained in reading 281-4, is such that it attracts unto itself those influences that would ordinarily be harmful to the physical or mental body. This principle of attraction and absorption is key to understanding salt's protective qualities. It acts as both a shield and a sponge for negative energies. Cayce made a crucial distinction between different types of salt in his readings. He specifically noted that coarse, unprocessed salt, particularly sea salt, retains more of its natural energetic properties than highly refined table salt. The minimal processing preserves what he called the life essence within the salt crystals, making them more effective spiritual tools. In practical application, Cayce suggested several methods for using salt as spiritual protection. Placing small bowls of coarse salt in the corners of rooms was recommended to absorb negative energies. Sprinkling salt across thresholds and windowsills created energetic barriers against unwanted influences. Salt baths, he advised, could cleanse not just the physical body, but also the energetic body of attachments and influences. What distinguishes Cayce's understanding from mere folklore is the systemic framework he provided for understanding how and why these practices work. Through his readings, he connected ancient wisdom with energetic principles that anticipate many concepts later explored in quantum physics and vibrational medicine. When properly understood, Cayce would say, salt represents one of the most accessible tools for maintaining spiritual hygiene and protection available to humanity. Cayce's readings also revealed that the effectiveness of salt as a spiritual tool is amplified by the consciousness and intention of the person using it. Salt that has been blessed, prayed over, or charged with specific intention becomes considerably more potent. This understanding places spiritual agency back in human hands. The tools are important, but equally important is how we use them. Interestingly, Cayce connected salt's protective qualities to its role in the human body. Salt is essential for proper nerve function and electrochemical communication in our bodies. In his holistic view, this physical function parallels its spiritual function, facilitating proper energetic communication and preventing disruptive influences from affecting our spiritual nervous system. Through his psychic work, Cayce observed that negative entities or demons are actually attracted to certain emotional states and thought patterns in humans. States of fear, anger, depression, or addiction create energetic openings that make one susceptible to negative influences. Salt, he explained, helps to seal these openings and restore energetic integrity, much as it helps seal and preserve foods from contamination. Consider how salt has been used throughout history, Cayce would note. From the salt circles of protection in magical traditions to the salt covenants in biblical contexts, to the salt used in exorcism rituals, there exists a common thread of understanding across seemingly disparate spiritual systems. In reading 35th 3.1, Cayce specifically addressed the mechanism by which salt affects discarnate entities. For salt, as we find, is that which preserves, as well as that which makes for the raising of vibrations, and those things of the carnal nature, or of a destructive nature, or those influences which would bring distress, physically, mentally, or spiritually, cannot exist in those environs where there is the proper combination of salt with intent. The key phrase here is salt with intent. Cayce emphasized that the mechanical act of placing salt without understanding or intention would have limited effect. The conscious application of salt as a spiritual technology activates its full potential. Edgar Cayce's understanding of salt's protective qualities was also connected to his broader cosmology, involving the continuous struggle between forces of light and darkness. In his worldview, negative entities were not necessarily evil in an absolute sense, but rather represented energies out of harmony with divine order, seeking to attach to human consciousness out of their own confusion and spiritual hunger. Salt, in this context, does not so much destroy these entities as it creates conditions where they cannot maintain their influence. It establishes boundaries that negative energies cannot cross when properly employed. This understanding aligns with Cayce's generally compassionate approach to spiritual phenomena, seeing even negative entities as ultimately part of the divine creation, albeit operating at lower vibrational levels. From a practical standpoint, Cayce provided specific guidance on using salt for protection in his readings. Beyond the previously mentioned methods, he sometimes recommended combining salt with other elements, particularly water, specific herbs, or essential oils, to create more targeted protective measures for specific situations. Salt water, especially, featured prominently in Cayce's protective recommendations. The combination of salt's crystalline structure with water's flowing, adaptive nature creates what he described as a dynamic barrier that is particularly effective against persistent negative influences. This may explain the tradition of using salt water in blessing rituals across many spiritual traditions. What modern science is beginning to recognize, and what Cayce articulated decades ago through his psychic work, is that crystalline structures like salt have remarkable properties at the quantum level. They can affect electromagnetic fields, store information, and potentially influence subtle energies in ways that are only now being explored by cutting-edge research. When we look at these properties through the lens of Cayce's psychic insights, we begin to understand why our ancestors, across virtually every culture, intuitively recognized salt's special protective qualities. They observed its effects, even without understanding the mechanisms behind them, and incorporated this wisdom into their spiritual practices. The wisdom of the ancients, Cayce would often remind those who sought his counsel, often contains profound truths awaiting rediscovery by modern minds willing to look beyond the veil of materialistic thinking. Edgar Cayce's readings suggest that as humanity evolves spiritually, our understanding of protective substances like salt will evolve as well. We are moving from superstitious use to conscious application based on understanding of subtle energetic principles. This evolution reflects our broader spiritual journey from unconscious to conscious participation in our own spiritual protection and development. The effectiveness of salt as protection against negative entities ultimately points to a more profound truth that permeated all of Cayce's work. The material and spiritual worlds are not separate, but exist on a continuum of vibration. Physical substances have spiritual properties, and spiritual realities have physical effects. Salt stands at this intersection, a humble crystal that bridges worlds. In an age increasingly dominated by materialistic thinking, Cayce's insights remind us that the ancients were not merely superstitious when they used salt for spiritual protection. They were applying a genuine spiritual technology whose mechanisms we are only beginning to rediscover and understand in modern terms. Edgar Cayce's psychic readings revealed that salt, particularly coarse, unprocessed salt, creates an energetic environment that negative entities cannot penetrate or remain within. Its crystalline structure generates stable vibrational patterns that disrupt the lower frequencies at which these entities operate. When used with conscious intention, salt becomes a powerful ally in maintaining spiritual boundaries and energetic integrity. The use of salt for spiritual protection is not merely symbolic, but represents a practical application of energetic principles that operate across the subtle and physical realms. In Cayce's holistic understanding, the physical properties of salt, its perfect cubic crystal structure, its preservative qualities, its role in electrochemical processes, all reflect and amplify its spiritual protective function. More than just a defensive measure, salt can be seen as a tool for spiritual purification and harmony. It helps restore proper energetic balance, seal openings created by negative emotional states, and maintain the vibrational integrity of spaces and individuals. Its universal presence across protective rituals in diverse spiritual traditions speaks to a shared human experience of its efficacy that transcends cultural boundaries. Perhaps most importantly, Cayce's insights into salt remind us that we are not helpless against negative spiritual influences. We have access to simple yet powerful tools that, when used with understanding and intention, can help us maintain our spiritual sovereignty and well-being in an increasingly chaotic energetic environment. The humble salt crystal, sitting in your kitchen cabinet, contains within it the legacy of ancient wisdom validated through Cayce's remarkable psychic gifts. It represents the bridge between physical and spiritual, between ancient practice and modern understanding, between intuitive knowing and conscious application of spiritual principles. As we navigate the complex energetic currents of modern life, Cayce's insights invite us to reconsider the spiritual technologies our ancestors left us, not with superstition, but with renewed appreciation for their subtle wisdom. In the simple practice of using salt for protection, we reconnect with a lineage of spiritual knowledge that spans human history and continues to offer its gifts to those with eyes to see and hearts to understand. In this understanding lies the deeper significance of why coarse salt has been used across time and cultures to drive away what many traditions have called demons and evil spirits. It is a reminder that sometimes the most profound spiritual tools are the simplest and most accessible, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be recognized once again. If you found these insights from Edgar Cayce's readings illuminating, we invite you to continue exploring the remarkable wisdom he left behind. The intersection of ancient knowledge and spiritual insight offers powerful tools for navigating our modern world with greater awareness and protection. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. We read every comment, so please share your thoughts or experiences with using salt for spiritual protection. Your perspective matters to our community. If you found value in these teachings, please help us spread this wisdom by liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more insights from Edgar Cayce and other spiritual teachers. Remember, as Cayce himself might say, the simplest tools often hold the most profound power.